I made sure that I got some pictures. So, talk to me about coming back from break. 3 weeks off, and then you're here for 5 days, and then it's a holiday. Was there a challenge to, or was it easier than when it was in August?
Easier.
Easier?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you able to kind of push a reset button and say, okay, now these are my new standards, and you know how to do things? Okay. And how do you now, kind of having a taste of coming back, how do you see it in September when you come back? What are some things I want you to talk about in a table group that said that some kind of ahas about this year that you've learned that for sure and certain the first day of school next year you are going to, so share those with your table groups.
What that PBS thing for ours. Just about to say. Just super hit it. If the middle is good for us. Yeah, if they can actually do like everything. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be like the DIL stuff, but it should be a calm though. Personally. Yeah. Lots of just based on the table group. I do like when they demo it for them for our little beyond that, like they got it on there, I just hit everything harder and like making the centers for my class.
They gotta talk about that. Maybe show and tell.
Do you have like color tape?
No, but they have a slideshow. Like I let them either do the test for like the little dots I have. I just buy new dots. I thought an extra kind of the best setup for that.
Are you serious?
I have my
years, so
I have a box of color crayons and color pencils.
are you fifth graders?
Yeah, and I think there were some stickers and hat and hat stuff. So I just thought about that. I was like, I found that. She found that in the shed. I agree with you guys. I really hit the PBIS when we came back hard. The Matrix, and I played a bunch of kid things, and so
I did about a day and right back into work.
see, I took a little bit every day that whole week that we came back, and I felt like it worked good. And then I felt like that week after school at the gate was right. It was wonderful that week at the gate. Like they had it back, right? They had it.
Yeah, I met a new first grade friend. So
I never closed today. One of my friends, whatever.
They're important. So whether they went anywhere or did anything, it was what was her work. Which made it
So cute.
Did she get all excited?
I just saw you and her down. She came with like t-shirt. I was like, we're gonna be nice. She's like,
all shirts and stuff.
I don't think they still got that t-shirt.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing
Yeah.
on your break.
yeah, she's the cutest first grader. Of course, I knew right away if I had them all day, I was driving me crazy. But she's so
No,
cute.
she's actually really good. That drives you crazy. Yeah.
So
There's some high ones that drive crazy.
Oh no, I haven't.
What'd you do? I said one more.
So she seems like she was
I told mine.
She will talk.
oh
yeah.
So yeah, I'm all like, okay.
She'll cover that.
That's what I did.
I don't care.
Quietly.
Anything else? PBIS and routines?
Trying to get back to her.
But he's also said anything that you would change for next year.
Well, if I don't get my special in the morning every single day, that'd be great. We'll have a special every day.
What about all right, what are some things you do differently?
Cuts into everything.
Home life is probably drastically different.
Yeah, you're twins. You have to remind them something.
Things you want to do differently.
Stop touching each other. Like, all the time.
Things you want to do different next year.
Sorry. Hit PBIS really hard in the beginning.
And what do you mean by that?
Just like, since I think we have a better sense of how to go over everything ourselves, instead of waiting for them to demo it for us, we could do it in class, and then when we go to the demos, they already kind of know what to expect.
rules, procedures, and expectations. Get them to know exactly how you want things done.
Would it be fair to say that we make assumptions and that really is a failure on our part to assume that they know how to do something? Or,
Yeah, I've got 7th graders that still don't know which side of the paper to write on.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
they write their name on the back. Oh, my name's on there. Where? On the back.
Okay. Yeah. So just the explicit polls go on this side, name goes here, date goes here, subject, just
you
that.
think that this should be, gosh, how come I have to do this all the time? Basketball fan at all? College basketball? Greatest coach of all time, college basketball. UCLA.
Oh. See his face. The kid knows his name.
Wooden. Coach Wooden. Right? Greatest basketball coach of all time. He had 10 years of national championships. I think he had, there was a run of 7 perfect seasons or something like that, crazy. He was the best. And he never, what's interesting about Coach Wooden is that he never once talked about winning. You listen to a college coach today, and that's the first thing they talk about. Well, we didn't do this right, and so we lost the game, or we won the game. He never talked about winning when he was running a practice, even a game. He talked about playing basketball the right way, and when you did so, the results would take care of themselves. Now, admittedly, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt Chamberlain and some of these great players. But you know what the first thing he did with his coach, with his players? I mean, these are college athletes. First thing he taught them how to do, literally, was to how to put on their socks and how to put on their shoes and lace the laces. There was the wooden way, and there was the wrong way. Why would putting on your socks as a basketball player be so important?
Your shoes come loose, you can't play.
Well, there's another problem, though, that if you ever ran up and down a court in basketball shoes or any kind of shoes for an extended period of time, what happens to your feet? They get sore from blisters. Have you ever had a blister on your toe from hiking or having bad break? My wife and I were in Monterey one time, and my truck's transmission went out. And it was during a time when she was doing a lot of walking. And I looked at Google Maps, and it says, well, it's a 2.5 mile walk around this and this and this to the rental car agency. We were on one side of the airport and needed to get to the other. All right, let's go. About a third of the way there, my wife realized that she wore the wrong shoes. And by the time we get there, they were all tore up with blisters, and some of them had popped and starting to bleed. And she was absolutely miserable, even though she was in great shape. Charles Wooden started with putting on the socks, and then how to shoes and how to lace them. And can you imagine, you're the highest recruited high school athlete, and you show up for your first practice at UCLA, and the first thing you're going to learn to do is put on your socks and shoes. And so you're all saying, hey, you know what? You put your name on the left-hand column, you put the date, the period, the teacher, and the assignment goes right here in the center. And that's my expectation. And it may be different in other classes. But yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but it's essential. It's essential. All right. What else? Rules, expectations, procedures, PBS. What else would you do differently? Would you arrange your class differently next year than the way it was when you started? Or is it because now you've got it where you like it, so you're going to stay there? What about anything on the walls or posters or decorations? Are you looking at that differently? Okay. All right. All good stuff. Things to get started right away. Okay. Now. On my table somewhere. All right, now I want you to talk about using all right, I want you to talk about how you're using proximity and the look to help manage your classroom and what differences you've seen from August to now. How are you using proximity and the Queen Victoria look And how, excuse me, how is that having an impact on your classroom management? Talk about those in your table.
Mine's less.
I think they added, it was 10, but they added
No, it's always supposed to be 10, but they canceled.
In December.
Well, now I'm
Okay, so you guys using proximity and the consulting?
Like upstairs and sometimes, and then they kind of fix it, and realize I'm staring.
instead of stopping and calling them out and whatnot. And trying to go
walk
out.
around like, no more.
So,
I also threatened them to
it seems to be a better option.
Yeah, I was already doing
I can just kind of look at things like, yeah. I feel like if you're giving them like a respectful way to correct them, so they get a little more respectful.
I've also gone to, I just have to say,
To stay away. I work on it, work on it, but you can't do proximity, so
because I
just
talked to
to
them,
stay.
that conversation kind of like,
And I put it in the trays.
I don't know.
I'm in charge
That's
of
the only thing I kind of do as a comparison.
I'm gonna have,
I suppose if I have,
so if he starts getting off and I have an opportunity just to
Well,
say that
still,
one word,
they should have.
whether they look at it or not. And he's the only one that really knows what that is. So they could be all in groups and stuff, and I could just walk around.
that's something that we're working on.
And he knows right back. So it's definitely made it less disruptive.
Not as a home business, but I mean in.
My kids have PE right before the awards assembly tomorrow. I said my kids have PE right before the awards assembly tomorrow. Because my PE's from 8 to 8.
And I keep saying like,
Awards assembly. They better not wear anything nice.
Usually, you know, you remember you had to make them run the aisle at least.
I don't know, he still made them. Last time they had, he still made them go around the thing. And I go, I was telling the girls, I go, well, tell me like you guys are doing awards assembly. He's still not whatever. At least Janet has her PE in the middle of awards, so she doesn't even really get. She doesn't really get You were the lucky one, you had it today.
This time, but usually, because it's usually on Tuesday, but because we don't have Monday, everything got shifted one time.
Well, it's not usually on Mondays, because it's usually on Janet's PE.
Last year, I think, switches back and forth from the normal to the
I wonder what his lesson planning is. I don't remember what we did last time.
So they never really know where,
we talked about those activity letters and then we talked about how to differentiate the grading of writing and stuff.
Did you guys do the CIQ portion?
Do you know what it was?
Yeah, I remember we asked about it. I don't remember what it was.
I know that's the one I haven't done.
I'll look at mine.
Two. Right, number 2 I haven't done, and that one I don't know what to do. Okay, that's gonna be any.
It's like those things that like things that bother you, but they don't really bother you, like fight it or not fight it. Or how do you make adjustments? Like I have to go out like things all the time. I try to read and quietly. You know, it's not like the biggest thing to go like.
Something like that.
I'm trying to figure out
That
what CIQ
sounds
stands for.
familiar now.
What does CIQ stand for?
That's interesting.
If only I knew that.
Remember the juices that put on the
kind of do 2 things a day where
My grandson was in 8th grade. Little parking lot home, like majority of them is credit, and he has about
Really easy.
gets to hold them, look at them, and then there's so many training and
schedule.
so it's up to him if he wants the big
Well, we've done
Recess time.
we have the paper thing that
Like science, and then writing stuff, science, social studies, and then the extra stuff would be like something tomorrow. Because this is like not every day. This is going to be tomorrow. They're going to finalize what they do. Make the other together.
No, you heard me today, Jennifer. Yeah, she's on trouble today.
Yeah, I guess.
So what do you do?
expected it's dinner time.
They're going to get dinner time. So these are already like, this one I'm going to rewrite because I want to hang on.
All right, go ahead and wrap it up.
Oh, I'm grateful for training.
Does anybody want to share out how you've changed, how it's changed, if it's gotten, whatever Steve asked you? Did anybody want to? Nobody? Is it secret? Is that why? Top secret?
I was saying that it's really cut down the disruptions in my class because I have one that just cannot control himself physically, verbally, just, he's nonstop. And I can now just not even pause and look, but just look, and he knows what I'm talking to him about. Or I can even now say the word choices, and he's the only one that understands why I'm saying it, because I've had the conversation with him about you're in charge of your choices, I'm in charge of your consequences if they're bad choices, and I don't want to give consequences. So you have to make good choices. So I just say the word choices when he's in a group or whatnot and off task.
And he'll self-correct?
Yes.
Wow. That's good. Really good. Anyone else? All right. We can move on. Yes, ma'am.
I have a kid that if he can't concentrate at his desk anymore, he comes over to my table and brings his work.
And that's what you've asked him to do?
Nope, he doesn't know to know now.
Oh, good.
I've gotten on to him so many times, and he just finally, like, he'll just sit there sometimes and he'll be looking around the room, he'll look around, and he'll look over, and then he'll close his book and come over and sit down next to me, and he'll pull out his work and he'll just start working. He goes, "Hi, teacher!" And I'm like, "Okay, hi."
That's good. I mean,
I'll be reading with another student, he just,
apparently he likes your company.
"I'll work, I'll work." And I'm like,
Yeah, you're on. Yay! So I was looking, I've been saving these. Does anybody have board teachers on their Facebook? I love the crap they put. Oh my gosh. It is the best. And I'm pretty sure I stole this from there. Never judge a student by the opinion of other teachers. Every child deserves a fresh start. How many times have you sat in a meeting at the beginning of school and they say, "Let me see your roster," and you show them the roster, or if you have your roster by then. Or you mention a kid and somebody goes, "Oh, let me tell you about that kid." And it's usually the older teachers that are a little bitter and a little bit grumpier. And they'll go on and say, "Oh my God, this kid has the worst parents, this kid has, won't sit still." And you can't help but hear it. And it's really hard for you to fight that. And then make sure that you give that kid a chance every time you see them. And I think that right there will show that child that you respect them. That simple thing.
Imagine, go back for a minute. Imagine if that was worse, backwards. Never judge a teacher by the opinion of other students. Every teacher deserves a fresh start.
Absolutely.
When I look at this, I think even for us as early care teachers, about the other people that we collaborate, and so many times it's other people from CVRC, and we'll hear such as like, "Oh, so and so and so, and so and so and so and so and so and so." And I'm like, well, that's their opinion. I have a whole different,
Fresh perspective.
Perspective of that person. So sometimes that's even with adults.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and that whole thing too about first impressions can reverse that too. Like when a kid walks through the door, we can't help but assess and kind of make a first impression, but they do it to us too. Probably even harsher than we judge them. Anybody else? So real quick with your table partner or elbow partner or whatever you want to call that person, discuss teach-tos that you have been or will be having to revisit since Christmas.
That's what I was just thinking, yeah. I reminded him right now it's just like
Just let him go.
See, I don't have the class, so by the time he's inside, they're barely walking in nicely. You see that in his lunch, right?
It's usually the ends go out walking and they just follow that.
I don't push them too much on but last semester I told them that I'm going to train them more because I typically give in when I know they don't understand. And so
look at them blank person.
I'm like, okay. And I just like, I told them I'm going to, and we're starting, I give like the vocab, like essential vocab that they need to ask me if they don't understand or if they want to participate. So I told them I'm ignoring you because you want to Spanish anymore. And we're getting to the second semester, so I'm expecting more out of you and myself. I'm going to try not to give in so much.
You have all grades, or is it just like
just 7th inning?
That's the one. I don't know. I loved it.
I was gonna
the
say,
song. Like that's some of the words you had to find the words.
Oh, I did that.
I love that. And that's how I know how to read all the lyrics. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I know.
So I have done that activity. I love it, but it goes a little too quick for them. Yeah, I have. There, since I do school,
This was his thing today. This is what he did.
mostly a lot of the 8th graders do that. The other ones are drawing more. So there's a lot of things that I have to accommodate for both. But we're getting there. There's a lot of things I would redo, but
Yeah.
what's my first year? MLK and
Okay.
but I mean, I think they came in.
I was
I felt that.
Yeah, I was thinking it too, that
And they
it's not gonna work.
one of the girls was
No, it's after, then you still have the one before, that would make total sense, yeah.
See, I go, can I erase one?
Can I move it?
It's Christmas miracles going on.
Like it came true.
That's not, well, wait a minute, right, if they added more lines, it's from the line. Technically, that's from the line.
It just depends on the topic, I guess, though, too.
Yeah.
Not in the area. They pick you, so that's kind of nice.
Exactly. Yeah. And the
The
thing
short
is,
system from one country to the other.
I do want to do school, but it's not bad.
That doesn't work, you gotta come up with a
Like about
said
it
letter.
is the discipline.
Yeah.
It's discipline every little contact.
Use that mic.
And my student teacher was on school, so I didn't have to do anything. And so this was brand new to me. And like, oh, you have to call, you have to log in, you have to write things down, you have to refocus, you have to keep notes. I did not do that at all.
Just have to keep staring, trying not to.
And so you have all these different periods and
All the parents, all the self-kids to what parents.
so it is, that's hard. That's the downside where I'm just like,
Left a message.
that's right.
How do you store things for them? Like, do they have a folder or what? That's what I don't even remember how they store things. Yeah.
I had to do ranger checks for one of my classes. They were kind of like, well, who are you to check our rangers? But I was thinking, like, hey, your papers are not going back to my classroom. So I started giving them points and it worked. But that was only one of my classes, which they kind of really good at it. Yeah. And it was 7th grade, 7th grade, so the ones that needed to do that more. How trying to remember to bring things back the next day.
What's going on?
Oh, you lost the Yeah.
Homework's gotten a little bit better, I just do that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, I haven't made that
I mean, I had 35, down to 32, and 33, and then,
So they know it's
But my biggest is 38. And I'm like to be there every single day.
Alright, so hopefully you are revisiting them. I know Steve said you guys talked about it right before I walked in, that you're having to revisit, but it wasn't as bad as you expected. Is that, you know why that is? It's because you did a good job of it on the front end, or the first semester, and it's in their long-term memory. You just got to joggle it a little and bring it up to the front. And so I think by you doing that, they're also realizing, again, consistency and that you're serious. If you came back from Christmas and you were like, woohoo, you know, and not revisited those in their head and their, you know, their comprehension of that event by you not revisiting is going to be, those rules don't apply anymore. Right? Because kids are like consistency. Just like if you say, I'm going to put you in timeout. 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 And you never put them in timeout, they know you're a joke. I hate that. Because whenever I get mad at my kid and I'm like, you know, I'm going to take that phone away. You know I'm going to take that phone away. And finally my partner's like, just take the damn phone away. But I was trying to be nice. So, my parent, like I taught. Students are not adults. They need help with time management, study skills, prioritizing tasks, social skills, character development. Instead of assuming immaturity or irresponsibility, assume they need help. This goes back to what we talked about before. What they're learning in their homes is not exactly what's appropriate in social situations or academic situations or formal situations of any sort. It's our job to teach them that. And did I tell you, so with Avid, one of the advantages about Avid is you got to travel with the kids, right? And a lot of these kids, I didn't realize, they'd never been in a hotel. If they stayed anywhere, they stayed with their parents, families, relatives, friends, or a motel. One level, simple. They didn't really stay in like Sheraton's, Radisson's. So the first time we went, I had this group of kids. It was my first group of Avid kids, and they handed us the card keys. And so I turned around and handed them to the kids.
What are these?
Well, where's our key? That is your key. And they were like, I go, all of a sudden it clicked. Oh, teachable moment. Holy crap, I had no idea. So I was explaining it to them, and then they said, well, how do we know what floor it is? And the room was like, number was 232, and I was like, I started to turn around and make a smart ass comment, and then I went, oh, it's room 2, it's floor 2. You know, you have to explain all that, and I was like, whoa. But then I thought about it later, and I thought, now they know. You know what I mean? They're gonna know. This same kid that asked me the room number was sitting at breakfast. It was it wasn't a buffet. It was they waited on you, but it was a free breakfast. And so we're all sitting there, and I'm right next to a table with a bunch of the kids. And, you know, we put our thing away, we ordered, and the kids are getting pissed, and I can see it. And I'm like, oh, they're not getting it. So I walked over and I leaned over and I said, close your menu. What? Close your menu. Okay, Miss Taylor. Bam. Right then the waiter comes over, and I saw her look at me, and she was like that's stuff that they don't know. I don't recall when I was told, but I know I was told by someone. You know, I probably got pissed off because somebody wasn't waiting on me too. So it was interesting, like, the stuff I assume our kids know, something as simple as that. Or we went to it used to be that really nice place on, I think, 12, burned down. It was like in a vineyard, or a little restaurant. The vintage house or something?
Yeah, the little tea house,
yes.
Whatever. Yeah.
So we went to a funeral and we went there after to eat, and one of my kids, this told me too that they don't usually eat in places with cloth napkins. They brought her, you know, the napkins, and of course it's all sitting there until they saw me take mine, and I'm like, hint! And her napkin fell. She flagged down the waiter and said, can you get me another rag? And all of us at the table just started laughing. And we realized she had no idea what that to her wasn't inappropriate or whatever. And I was like, oh, honey, I know where that kid is now and she's doing fine. So lesson planning, we talked about all this. Know your students. You guys did the surveys, the questionnaires. I made comments on some of yours because some of you, I think, either just posted your original or you missed part of what the purpose was in this, which was to dig deep into the parent, dig deep into the kid and find out their hobbies, their loves, their passions, their weaknesses. Not just the general, how many sisters do you have, how many brothers do you have, you know. Some of you had, do they read in the home? But anyway, I made comments on all of them that were turned in before I graded them. But anyway, that's what this is for. Rigor, if they're bored, you're going to lose them. Whether they're the most challenged in their class or the most gifted in your class, they're going to be bored if they're not challenged. So that's your job to keep that rigor up. We're going to do some stuff today. Actually, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff today besides just sitting. So pacing, turtle, or hare. Need to be somewhere in between. And Steve did the visual step-by-step where you make sure the kids can see it, understand it. Actually, the Avid stuff that we talked about, like having a math problem on the board and walking through everything, not assuming they know anything at any point. They need to see it. Same thing we just talked about. There's my cute little pictures. All right, so we talked about rigor and keeping it exciting and interesting and challenging. So one of the ways you can do that, and think about this, you're in story time, or you guys are on carpet time, or if you're in high school, it's right when you walk in and you're talking about something, or you have a prompt on the board. The key is to ask open-ended questions, right? We've heard this before. Especially if you're interviewing someone, you ask open-ended questions so you don't get yes or no. That's what you should be doing with our kids too. So instead of saying, do you agree? And they all go. You need to say, what do you agree about? What is one thing that you feel you agree with specifically? And make them pinpoint it, and then make them justify it. And when you do that, that's all next level critical thinking. And you're teaching these kids to think, because when they can think, they can figure out anything. Right? We want them to be able to, you know, that's the whole argument with rote and memorization and all that, is they can't do anything with it. So we want them to be able to think so that they can take that information and make it malleable and use it in the way that they can, whether it be through speech, writing, acting, whatever. That's why we do that. Connect with different ideas. I think I mentioned before, I did everything with a pre and a post write. A pre-write, what, like this stuff sitting here, you're going to do a pre-write on that. What do you think we're going to be doing? And then once you figure that out, then I'm going to ask you, how do you think that's going to happen? So that would all be in a quick pre-write. We sit down, we do it. When it's over, you're going to write a post-write. Did it go how you expected? Were there hiccups? What worked? Who came up with it? Why did it work? You can ask all kinds of questions to get them to respond. And the reason you're doing that is they're having to synthesize what they just did. Even the kid who's standing there and really maybe just handing supplies over, if you ask them to pre-write and post-write, they're still going to process what happened. Right? Because you got that kid who's not going to take the lead, right? I mean, we all have those. We have the kid that would rather just go hide in a corner. That's why you involve the writing. Okay? Decision making, we'll do something with that. Creativity, inspiring creativity. We've talked about how they get it killed when they go into the public school system. We want to keep that alive and well. Working in groups. And, you know, some parents, I don't know if you've ever had that. I know at the high school level we probably get a lot more than anyone. Why is my child's grade affected by their group members? And so when you do that, keep in mind on how to keep it fair. I've had people who have done, okay, you have $1 and you have to divide it up amongst your group based on who did what work. So $1 within 5 people, and they have to, you know, obviously 20-20-20 would be perfect, but what about the kid who didn't do anything? The kids might give them 10. That lets you know too what happened in a much less than aggressive way, because they can just send you their little thing. The other thing is, if you don't care and it's just a group project to succeed, it's not a grade, then you don't need to do any of that. You just kind of need to supervise and make sure that, you know, if a kid's kind of standing off, go over and say, hey, what's your role in this? You know, tell me what you're going to be doing. And they probably have I mean, I've had kids that were brilliant and they could just look at it and go, this is what we should do. And that was their contribution, but it worked. So, you know, that kid needs to be praised for being intelligent as well, but what about the kid who trudges through and tries it 16 times? That kid deserves credit too. So anyway, that's what, working in groups, brainstorming, and incorporating different points of view. you know, that's a creative thing. You have them write you just read Cinderella, have them rewrite it from the perspective of the mouse. Or from one of the mean sisters, stepsisters. I mean, if you do that, it's such a creative change for them, and it activates such different parts of their brain to see it from a different perspective. So here's what you guys are going to be doing in a second. Well, you can kind of tell, because I tell you. Okay. We have 4 groups. All right, I was going to break you guys up, but we don't really need to for what we're doing. So, don't eat them.
We're gonna play Chubby Bungus.
Without drinking. Right now, I need you to get out a piece of paper, and I want you to write. Obviously, you know what we're going to be doing, because you can read it on the board. But I want you to tell me how you think it's going to happen. I wasn't ready to grow up in an Italian household.
There's no spaghetti on it.
Yeah, I think we have enough.
Bread table?
I think we're gonna make this go.
Everybody did.
Yeah. Electricity lighting. Just a real pain. Some of them. Decorative lighting on that side. Didn't you feel this one? Yeah, it's always oh, somebody got a wiring problem. Doing more testing, they found out. Well, just
Take it all out.
Ran the wire for the ceremony. I think that's really pulling pipes and holding the wire down there.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, yeah.
Someone was. I see more excitement.
They even use compost paper.
I guess she's gonna get my sister-in-law. She's going and texting me every single day. This was the things to do. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Not yet.
February soon.
Not yet. So, I'm going to tell you. Okay. So, the pre-write, what I would have asked the kids is, what do you think is going to happen with this stuff? You probably wouldn't have this on the board. And then say, okay, so now with what you think you're going to do, tell me how you think that's going to happen. Like, how are you going to actually build that? And then they can try to tell you. Some of them are going to be like, I have no idea. And you say, do your best. It's just a guess. Nothing's right or wrong. Okay, so now you've got that. Now, if you look at my, anybody know the Judds? My cute little play on the title? Yeah. So, Love Can Build a Bridge. You've just been hired by the engineering design team, Thornton and Taylor. We're very elite. To design a bridge over the large river in your town, the only 2 supplies you can use are the marshmallows and spaghetti noodles provided. Your bridge must be 2 feet long, have only 4 contact points, and it must be able to hold the teacher's cell phone for 5 seconds. Okay.
So only 4 marshmallows? Is that what you understand?
You can use as many marshmallows as you want. There can only be 4 contact points to anything solid. That makes sense.
waiting for the, okay, now do it.
And roughly 2 inches.
What if we made the ones in the middle smaller so they don't have so much weight in the
Mine
center?
has 8 already.
It has to be how long? 2 feet?
And it has to support a cell phone for 5 years.
Well, this was my bed. I still don't.
You're talking about just taking a bunch of these. Wait, that's just 2 feet. But it
Oh.
would be 2 feet, right?
Well, I'm starting to think that we could do with marshmallows.
Connected right to hold it.
Yeah.
Like
With the marshmallow.
Oh, so only 4
really
things.
a contact now, like 4 wheels
Or what if we had a marshmallow and then this, they're gonna come out this way? Yeah. So with this thing, only touch.
This is the Gary makes it. Yeah, they're all thinking over there. He came up with a plan.
It's time to build, right?
And I'm always amazed at when people come up with it. Like what Mr. Land just said, I was like, wait, the marshmallow babies, and that's like. Make her be a team player.
I like your idea of having a lot of them to kind of support it, or at least having it where it's more than one to support the weight of the phone, because otherwise it's not going to support it. So I like that idea. What do you guys think?
They can't what? They can only have 4 contact points.
Well, it would be 2 on this side and then 2 on this side.
But it's gonna be this long. So we can keep adding marshmallows, but every time it's gonna weight it down. Now, if we can put enough to hold it, that's probably work if you have more than.
Well, you said you've done this before, so rock it, girly girl.
No, I didn't say we've done it. This particular one, but you know, it's making.
Would you do like 5 across?
Put a little stronger.
That would. You're so smart. So like do 5 of them, and then do another 5.
Yeah.
Or should we do more than that?
That's a good point too, right there. Doesn't have to.
And then we might do like some right here and here to connect it to make it stronger, and then do another X with it here and here after.
But I don't think we can only have 4.
Okay, wait, but yeah, but you have to draw it along. So these 2 would be touching the table, and then the 2 over here would be touching the table, right?
What if we just made it into a third?
Well, it's from this here to that here. Because we measured the.
Are you guys thinking of building it up?
So it's.
I'm thinking of it like going across a gap. So then this would be one side, and then wherever this attaches would be the other side, and that's your 4 points.
Just guessing.
Because it's gonna have to
That's pretty awesome.
So what do you think about doing that, and then putting some right here, 5 here, and 5 here, and doing that? Yes, should we do it? Are we sticking it this way, or are we sticking it this way? This way?
The kids would wait till it's done now.
Yeah.
How is this part looking about though? Just in that?
And then we're gonna snap 5 in half, right? To put going this way?
No, work was trying.
To connect these two. And then these will go diagonal.
How are you gonna get the middle from dipping down?
Well, you have to count the donuts too, don't you? Wait, is this considered one thing?
Right here?
Can I tell you what all the years that I've done this?
Marshmallow touches the ground.
You guys are so
Right.
kind.
And then we're gonna do another diagonal.
And then you got, they
Or
asked.
another crisscross.
Are we able to? That's already 4.
But it's gonna hang off the table, right? Because it's a bridge. And there's the other two. So we're gonna take this
So the part is actually the contact.
But that,
Okay, but is he gonna, yeah.
So if she's right, if we spread it to the across.
that's not gonna even hold my phone.
So let's make them modify it. So we gotta make enough of these.
So just put some right there? That one's okay. One, two, three,
Break up a marshmallow and put it here to like glue these together.
And more noodles.
so we're gonna put it right here, right?
This is the very end.
Oh, you don't have to bump like that. But we can put them in. Yeah.
So we need to make another one of those. And then have how
So how many of these do we want to do to make
It does, huh?
Yeah. The hypotenuse stars more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we might have to cut the sides a little.
Oops. Okay, now that's good. Oh, sorry, I should
Now they're sticky. Let me take this one out.
came off and I tried to
Because it's squishy. Yeah? What do you guys think?
Would you want to lace them
that way to this way.
I don't know. Let's see.
I don't know,
So
like
we
make
have
it
to
like
hold.
more. We could even do that instead
Yeah,
of
that looks pretty good. We're just gonna make it longer now. So here's, if you do 5 more.
make the base and then put more on top.
No, we just need to go across, because she made the point where 2 contact points, so we can make this as long as we want.
Or if we like then stand it up, right? And then make it down out. Because if you only have 2 on the bottom, like touching right now.
So like the same size? Throw it in forward.
When we spread
the
across
table.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
So we just gotta make this long enough so our gap is
That's true,
2
okay,
feet.
I get it.
I mean, if we make it long enough, it goes on my phone now.
Yeah,
But it got 5 seconds, so the thing is we gotta make this
yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay. So you're there and you can stick in the middle. You want to try it again?
So we're going this way? Are you doing 5?
Yeah. You wanna?
You know what, I could lay a couple of crosses this way and then
Oh, this is 5?
That's okay, once you connect it to that side, it should sound there's nothing solid that you can't add another.
And then wrap it around it?
yeah, you can add
These ones are gonna take off just a little bit.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Shoving it in there. Yeah.
That's what we need. We need something with all of that. So this would go.
Okay, so we'll do another one. The question is how
One more and then it should be it, right?
well we need. So we just have
That's the 1 foot right there.
we might need 2 more.
So one more section on here should do it,
Okay, let's see
right?
what it takes us to be.
Okay, I'm definitely, yeah.
Marshmallows in the middle there too, though. Oh, I like that. Oh, yeah. Maybe 2 or 3 more together.
On your phone?
So who's got the
In her car, in my car.
One more set of 5.
Come on over.
What?
you have anything to measure
Measuring
it?
tools. Oh wait, we have our
Measuring? No.
phone. Here on your phone. Yeah, on your phone there's a measuring tool.
People were using their paper, that's 11.
Okay, that's right. So
There.
okay, so this is 11.
How many do you have on there?
That's
There.
that should do it. Yep, that should do it because that's 11
inches now.
Okay. Okay, so now somebody you want to move your drink off of there. You gotta be careful.
Can we still lace some?
Okay, so it hold that. Pull it to where there's only 2 contacts.
Yeah.
What if we put on the bottom?
This poor Marshall. But I'm trying to
Okay, wait.
Okay, how
What if we make this sticky?
we can't do any more weight in it.
It's gonna literally
So it like you rip off the marshmallow. Yeah, I'm serious. So it's and then do it on that side too. Rip it in half.
What did we do?
Sticky.
Inside out.
Yeah.
Okay, well
We should probably add more weight to this side.
Here. Oh, yeah.
Okay, add more noodles this side. Make it taller on that side.
tall. Like this.
Here, and then.
Or across this way. Yeah.
I mean, you can do that. Definitely give me the Okay, what are we doing?
I think any of us.
We're gonna bend it in the night. It's fine.
Cause I give up more.
Break these. Make them shorter. At least it was hard to pick up.
Smallest cell phone on the table.
Should we add some going this way?
It's not what.
Or would that be too much weight?
Okay, maybe if we just shorten these a little bit.
So then.
Right? It reaches.
You want me to try it?
Yeah, they're good.
Try, here, I'll hold right here.
It
Almost.
has to hold it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, but it's not gonna stay on there.
Okay.
We got it.
We got it. Mine's
Oh,
done.
no! We dropped it now. But we had
That was
it.
Where's your
But if we do...
Oh, well, that was quick seconds before it fell.
What's your phone look like?
It's a 8.
It held mine.
Okay.
Is your part?
Yeah.
Can we just like that way? Right here. Maybe. I was gonna put it on. Can we maybe bridge it some way? Make like a triangle so then it holds it up a little more.
Stabilizing force right down here, but that one.
10.
Where did it break?
We made it to 10.
So like if we did like this to hold that part up a little bit better, maybe.
We can, and then do one here too.
And we could even make it like a pyramid. So put the marshmallow up here.
I think we just have to
To that, and then we put
pull some
yeah, because it's gonna be this much marshmallow. Oh, here.
Hand me that one.
But not in the center because we won't want any more.
Yeah.
There we go.
Isn't he so cavalier and so clear?
Put some.
And I'll tell you.
It's making it work.
You gotta add a third one on that.
It had held mine for 5 minutes and then it broke. I mean, not 5 minutes.
5
seconds.
seconds.
5 seconds. That was a long
Okay, I'll let you place it. Five. Woo! Nice. Now you can eat the marshmallows that aren't touched.
Shall we move the table this fast?
You think you're ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
We'll see.
Starkey, that looks like Lincoln, not Lincoln Logs, what was it? Tinker Toys. Where do you want me to put it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice job.
Yeah, good job, you
What?
guys.
I got it here. Just look at it. Does it matter?
Can we use his phone because it
Yeah.
worked with his?
Yeah, you can use this one.
Oh, I know, like maybe
You want to use your phone? Use your phone.
The only thing maybe is put one across.
I don't think it's that long though.
Maybe do this time.
No, but you can do a marshmallow middle and have that stabilizing force on that. So, but we made it work. So.
3.
4,
We're
5.
like, how can we
Got
make
it.
it?
Nice. Sorry, I just knocked stuff. Oh no, I got so excited. Okay, we got 2.
Design.
I don't see why that's.
Yeah. So now, when you're done and you were successful, oh, even if you weren't, but you guys were. Post write. What were the different attempts you made? What were the different things you tried? What worked? You guys. Oh, clever. I had no height requirement whatsoever. Excellent.
We tried a couple. 2 different.
They used your look at put it together kind of thing. Perfect. So same thing. Post write. Post write.
How many contact points do you have?
They only have 4 technically.
Yeah.
Right? Because they merged them together.
Initially, that's like enough.
Just pretty clever. You guys ready? Oh, look what you did.
They just stuck to the marshmallow.
That one kind of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I've never seen things look like that. Okay, so now your post write. Did you get all that? Did you hear what I said? What did you do? How did it work? What were your failures or attempts? Sure, whatever you want. Save paper.
It's 2 feet. We measured.
You guys were good.
It was 2 papers plus 2 inches.
They did measure.
No, it's freaking long, but you also, I skip around, like, this one, so this lessons like one section, and I haven't with it. I think I'm gonna skip around. We're ready to start like the other stuff already.
Worried about what?
I'm ready to ask if we get to it, we get to it. I'm not really concerned because I want to do a book like after I still don't care about very much
Yeah. I just looked at you and I just didn't sure. And it's like, I mean, you put this in my house, it's a little more command. It's not fixed. I looked at it.
So what are you good basically?
There were just 2 differences. It's like always out. You still see that stick because I feel
Right. Just when you it's fine.
problem that it's those issues. And those can be pushed off when you're younger and you don't have that thing. But as you get older, it's more before.
Yeah. Well, I remember we did picked already have it. Everybody stuff.
I was like,
Yeah, I couldn't, so I just looked it up. Yeah. I think I'm so confused.
So we moved to
But he did not.
no, I had a candy bar.
You know, they start to look like their dogs.
Okay, a couple more minutes to finish that up.
The blonde dog. Since you're not redheaded anymore.
I smell hand sanitizer. My sister must be around here somewhere. Is it you? My sister's a German. She She has one of those size, you know, in her purse. And we, all of us, we go to dinner, we get back in the car, and she pulls it out of her purse and then goes around the back of the car with.
I have one like this and like that.
And, yeah, and I'm like, I mean, I can appreciate a lot of it, but my sister will be. Even when my niece was a baby, it was ridiculous, the stuff she would do. And she's still ridiculous. She has, so my parents live upstairs, and my sister and my niece and my brother-in-law live downstairs. And my sister can't stand my parents' place. So she has slippers at the door up to their house, and at the door into her apartment, which is all in the same house. But she won't wear her slippers up there. She only wears the slippers that she bought from my dad's house. Because she doesn't want them to cross-contaminate.
That makes sense.
No, I swear to God. Swear to God. And then when I walk in, she's like, you need to bring slippers to sit right here so that you don't walk in with your shoes on. I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. But I'm not going to have 3 sets of slippers all over the house because when she goes, they take my dad dinner every night now, and they go upstairs. My sister will bring her own silverware, her own plates. She won't eat all my stuff. Honest to goodness, she is special. All right, so we've talked about this depth of knowledge chart. We also talked about Costas, but since this is what the thing is now with the schools, I'm trying to begrudgingly switch over. The activity we just did, looking at this chart, what in level 1 do you think it covered? If you can see it, if not, you should have a copy of it somewhere. What is it? What did you say?
I just saw the word tabulate.
Oh.
Use. Identify the materials.
Identify, good. What else? Identify was the first one I thought.
Well, if we had more time, I could say it's on it.
Correct. Illustrate. So some people did. I think this table had a little sketch of what they thought would work, and some of you others probably did. That's illustration, right? So you're taking a concept, putting it into an illustration. That's pretty complex thought process. Arrange. Didn't you have to arrange a little bit? Calculate. You had to calculate.
You had to tell.
Huh?
Measure.
Measure. Good.
You had to tell what your ideas were.
You did. You had to tell to your colleagues what you were going to be working at.
You had to match if you were measuring and you had done one side, you had to match the length to the other side.
Oh, good. And that's mirroring, right? Which of course is a whole nother pre-reading skill. And then you get into level 2.
Construct.
Sorry? Cause and effect. That was a big one, right? Modify.
Construct.
Predicted. Somebody else said something over here.
Organize.
Organize.
You had to summarize.
Good, good. What about identifying patterns?
Yeah.
Do you do that a little bit in this?
Yeah.
A little bit? Kind of, I mean, not like a math pattern, but you're looking at a visual pattern to see what worked. Okay, so you're getting the point, level 3.
Revise.
Revise. What else? Huh? Critique. Yeah.
Compare.
Compare. Construct.
Hypothesis.
What was it?
Hypothesize.
Hypothesize, big one. So level 3, strategic thinking. With thinking. Strategic thinking. Look at what you've already covered as far as critical thinking goes, skill-wise. And we get to level 4, that's usually a really higher level of thinking. What have we touched in level 4?
Design, analyze.
Applying concepts, right? Create. Connect. Immediately, well, no, 2 tables said, do we have to build it to look like a bridge? That's a connection, right? You have to connect it to, you know, for a kid, they're going to be like, oh, okay, I've seen a bridge, even if it's on TV. I've seen a bridge. He's connecting ideas, she's connecting ideas. And then you guys thought outside the box and said, does it have to look like an actual bridge? Nope, I never said that. I said, you're building a bridge, 4 contact points made out of spaghetti and marshmallows, that was it. Now here's my question. The reason why we're going to be doing this stuff isn't necessarily like this is something you're going to walk into your classroom and do. Maybe it is. But if it's not, the point is, as you're doing this, you should be processing different things you could do in your class that would incorporate an activity like this that would hit all of those. These kids will walk out of here talking about that project that you did in other classes, which is probably the best compliment you can have, right? The teacher says, God, they kept talking about what you were talking about. Like, oh, I'm sorry about that. And in your head you're thinking, no, I'm not really. That's pretty cool. Right? I used to have Socratic seminars, and teachers would get mad because the kids would continue the conversation or debate in the next class. And I'm like, I don't intend for them to do that, but they were that heated about the subject, they were, right, and they walk away, they're still learning. That's something like this. I guarantee you, even though we're adults and this is really just fun play for us, I bet when you're driving home, something's going to pop in about this activity. And that's the crazy part of it. It was fun, but look at all the things that hit. And the kids are going to be like, that was so rad. And you're thinking, yeah, I just tricked you into learning a ton of stuff. Right? Aww. I know. I couldn't find any cute potty pictures, but the frogs are really cute. So, frogs are what you got. 10-minute break. Actually, let's make it a 7-minute break so we can do the other 2 activities that I have. Okay? 7-minute, go potty, throw your stuff, throw the pasta and stuff away. I'm just going to put it on my phone.
I'm like, oh my god. I got mark on my face. I told the other one, I was like, do you want mark on my face? So I tried to rub it, I think I became
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw it at you.
So I guess I appreciate it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really not going to believe me if I say I did it.
You can throw, the stuff that's, you have to eat it, he said. But not the bridge that's made, the untouched stuff.
I could do that with marshmallows.
Yeah, no, spaghetti now.
So just go ahead and bridge.
Yeah. Unless you want to take a picture.
Don't you love my ideas? They're so messy.
I don't know what those are. Okay.
Hey, it even stays together when you pick it up.
Oh. Is that new?
Ours was the only one that actually spread
I did. Thanks for including me. Oh, look, he's in it too.
Okay.
We're all in red and black. No, not 49ers.
So yeah, it's not embarrassed. All about her.
They did something like that. I don't know. I guess it was a big deal.
Probably. I didn't care. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
You know when you wipe the board with your hand, you just don't care.
I would have watched
And then
it if I
because I
had.
think that's what I did with the marker with the course.
Because all we do is like that thing. But then when
But
like
I write the during the
football playoffs come up, football playoffs.
big.
Came around the corner.
Okay, so can you just whoever you do decide to bring, can you text me that and I can put it on the
Yeah.
I'll ask to kind of make sure she knows. She should be able to. And then like I'll just spell it. It's not.
Oh, that happened. The whole time? Oh my god.
Now it's moving.
She said she knows the other person needs worse though.
He's not afraid of you.
If I got into a fight. Oh.
That's awesome.
Bless you.
Yeah. What? Really? What is that? Holy cow. Oh, they're weird looking. They almost look like llamas. Wow. Yeah, no. We have to avoid wild pigs. If we have a problem on our property, we solve it.
What happened to you all looking at people? You know what? I need to get a hold of I need to get a hold of because my treasury system
Oh.
Are you just following you? I like it. I got a new one when I came in my first year.
Plus you should say, no, I got it, because you might drop it in revenge.
I know. I know.
My dad and my grandpa. Assuming they would love that.
I'm gonna ask my friend
Once
Jessica
it worked, to see my mom. My grandpa borrowed this. It's a lot.
I'll practice doing it right there. The last day.
So I just. Like something at 1099.
Like, you want a place to go to, or like?
So I'm not having to buy all kinds of makeup to use for one.
I don't do that. Makeup, you'll see how you feel. If it works, you wear it every day, and then just replicate that the next day. That's literally what we could do.
I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, we can just come over and do your makeup and we'll screw around.
I don't know.
How are you doing it? Do you want lashes though? Oh, have the lashes on. Just have to bring McKenna. She knows what to do for that. McKenna does makeup. Oh, yeah. There we go. She does hair too. Like if you want to do hair stuff, you can really need to do it too. Okay.
This happens to me all the time.
Like your shirt.
Yeah, that's my brother. My brother says that. I'm always like, oh my god. He would never speak up.
Steve's brother started another thing a different school. So before I got into graduate, I've always
I don't know. I don't know how all that works, but it's my dad's sister, my sister. I call her Sarah, so I got to make sure it's my best. My dad did, but he asked me like about 9
Is that family good too? Not too big about it. What is that? My mom's one of her best husband.
She left my dad and I was in a bad spot. And no money. None. Not even an insurance policy. All right. All right, so this is more of an elementary activity. At the end of my PowerPoint, I have the links to like this site that I got this from has all kinds of critical thinking activities for kids on every grade level, which I thought was pretty cool. So real quick, it can be on the same piece of paper that you wrote about the spaghetti bridge. What do you think the video is going to be about? That's your pre-write, real quick. 1, 2 sentences most. What do you think it's going to be about? A squash, eggplant, pickle. You know what though? If she wasn't there, you'd be bored.
I would when she's not there.
Although, without the sand sanitizer, you might have a better nose, but.
She just comes and still smiling.
Okay, are we ready? I will say this is an incredibly gripping video, so I hope, you know, I hope we don't have to get you anxiety meds when it's over.
Eat a marshmallow.
Yeah, eat a marshmallow. Is the sound on?
Yeah, no.
Use your head when you're online, most especially your mind. Think about the things you see. Ask good questions, that's the key. Use your arms when you're online to take a break and balance time and leave your tech behind. When you find yourself a tree to climb, your head down to your toes. Pause, think about it. From your feet up to your nose. Pause and think online. Use your gut when you're online. Pay attention to its signs. Know when it's safe to play. Make good choices every day. Use your legs when you're online. Stand up to bullies or cross the line. You can help friends big or small. Just lend an ear and stand up tall. From your head down to your toes. Pause, think about it. From your feet up to your nose. Pause and think online. Use your feet when you're online. Think about the tracks you leave behind. Privacy's the way to go. Don't share with people you don't know. Use your heart when you're online. Always do what's right and kind by showing friends respect and being nice on the internet. So think with your head, balance with your arms, listen to your gut, stand up with your legs, make good tracks with your feet, and feel with your heart. Just pause and think online.
Yay! Okay, as hokey as that was, you. Am I in the right place? So, that video. Could you see getting your kids around, watching the video, and then asking them open-ended questions about this, right? And you could have them, let me try to get on the right slide. So, and then you have them, as soon as it's over, okay, give me 3 things, write it down. If they can't write, obviously you're going to share. But write down 3 things that you learned from this. And they write them down. Private, right? Private, independent. And then you take a couple minutes and you say, I want you to share out. Share with your elbow partner what you learned. And then I want you to pick one of the greatest things that you learned and you're going to share it with us. Again, okay, so now they're sharing, they're verbalizing, which of course is an internalizing, synthesizing technique. Now they have to synthesize the information and decide which is the best one to share out. Those are all higher level processes. Seems simple to us, but when you think about a child who hasn't necessarily connected that wiring yet, you're increasing that without even him realizing it. They're going to think, oh, that was funny, that was stupid, da, 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 but they're still learning. Right? So, I don't think we don't have a lot of time, so I don't think I have to walk you through it all again, but I want to ask this question again. What part of this, and you're talking about the writing, the talking, the watching, what part of that activity is being covered, or what part of this is being covered in that activity?
Tell.
Recall.
Say again?
Recall.
Recall. Good.
Tell.
Sorry?
Tell.
I can't hear you.
Tell, because you're telling your elbow partner.
Yes. Anything else?
Interpret.
There's some pattern recognition.
Definitely.
I mean, words are repeated, ideas are repeated.
Good. Patterns. What about Well, identify, we did it at the very beginning when I was making things about the shapes. That's a way of identifying, right? I was making fun saying there were vegetables. When you get to level 2.
Predict.
Say again?
Predict.
Predict, good. What about cause and effect? Is that kind of what the whole video is? Is if you do this, then this?
Relate.
Sorry?
Relate.
Relate. Definitely, definitely. Make observations. What about level 3? Anything there? Differentiate, good.
You would use the concepts to help solve your non-routine problem.
Yes. Because that's kind of a new thing for our kids. I mean, not for our kids, but in the scheme of generations, the fact that they have so much access to all this, and now they've got the cyberbullying and all that. So that is new, and that is a new concept for them. And even the kids that, like, let's talk about some of the kids that don't have computers in the home, and then they come here. Their first exposure to that is probably their friend showing them how to get around on the internet or on the computer and do not good things. Changing the screensaver, going to sites they're not supposed to be going to. That's their experience for some of them. And even the kids that do know how, who's going to resist that? You know, your friends will, hey, check this out. I mean, we're all going to do it. You know, when we had calculators, I don't know how old some of you guys are, and we would write, we thought it was really cute to type boobless.
Yes.
Yeah, right? I mean, that was the coolest thing in the world, and even, you know, the kids that weren't bad kids did it, and it was so funny, and we all giggled. And can you imagine what kids do now? I mean, we know some of it, right? I mean, but that was our technology, as sad as it is. Level 4, apply concepts. I think that's what somebody said. Analyze. You can't help but when you're sitting there to, on some level, analyze what they're saying. Like when they talk about being kind and using your feet and blah, blah, blah. So I think there's some level of that. Yeah?
I think, go back to level 3, drawing conclusions. If you just show them the video without actually telling them anything about it, and then ask, why would I show you this? Then they can draw conclusions of the context of the video.
That is awesome. That could also be your post write and then your share out. Of just that. That's awesome. Anybody else? So again, you're not just hitting one, right? You're hitting multiple levels. You're hitting different activities. This is the last one for today. But see, I did tell you it wasn't going to be a lot of talking. You can tell what this is about. Survival. All right, here it is. Your watch stopped and you missed your tour boat back to civilization. Looks like you'll be spending a while on an uninhabited tropical island. I'm sure right now many of you would love that. You have been given a list of 30 items that may come in handy during your stay on the island. Have you?
No.
All right, I'll find them. Or let's revise this a little. I have a list of 30. However, I think that would be a lot for most kids anyway. So I was going to tell you with this list to maybe just cut it down to like 10 and have them pick 2 that they need or something like that. High school kids, junior high kids, they can handle this. I will find the list for you. Off the top of your head, I want you to respond to number 1 though. This will be your pre-write. What type of items would you have to have with you if you were abandoned on an island? And then I'm going to find that list for you while you're doing that. I thought I could type it.
Is it a get over this island situation?
Guns to like clear this.
I did fine and string, because if we have lead, we have times when you got a little spill going on. We put hatchet, so we're thinking. I put a canteen or water bottle, because water's not going to be on the edge of it, and I have to go in there. And then of course I said hatchet, because you know, you got hatchet, you can chop down sticks and stuff.
shelter too.
Yeah, you can use a top builder shelter and stuff.
You need a hug?
There you go. That's what I like. Totally figure it out because you're gonna run out. Just use a leaf.
Leaf.
Yeah.
Different types.
You can make it, yeah.
I'll survive. Maybe a lure.
Items.
Some rope or something.
It's a trap for
I don't know
Probably coconuts.
We're gonna have to come up with 10 so we can do that.
Yeah.
One of those.
Okay.
Well, unless you're ocean water. I just need a volleyball. Make the most of it. Well, at least it's gonna protect something. I'm fine with that. It's coming out, you really need them.
Yes.
Sort of.
Okay, when you've worked on Apple for a while and then you go to this, it just doesn't quite work as well. This I attached as well. It is a whole slew of activities that are critical thinking, and I use it all the time with my online teaching. All right.
Wait, you were just stranded there. You're not planning on going
You
there.
just know where we're going. So you don't need to so.
I would have never thought it would be this horrible switching back to a PC. All right, there we go. Can you read that? Yes. There's your 30 items. So once you've decided your top 5, then you're going to share with your table group. And as a table group, I want you to come up with 10. So however many people you have in your group, that's going to make you have to disseminate a little bit more or go through reduce your list a little bit more.
Yeah, you're alone. Who cares?
So, I said knife. Did everybody say knife? So let's put knife on there.
Okay.
You wanna?
So I have.
I also said flint.
I have flint. I have like a machete.
I
know you can do it. I just don't know how.
And a water container.
Okay. I also put rope and tarp.
Yes, same.
But
But you can boil the water.
But then,
Do you guys like rope?
or would you just like boil the water?
Good. Do you guys want to do 10? Do you guys want to do a 10?
Survival technique.
If you get a scratch with the
Have you ever made lamb?
Yeah.
Yeah, range.
I was gonna put chapstick in
Yeah, so I think the rope is still good.
No, we have to put 10 together. That's a
I
list.
put a canteen or something for water because,
What do you have?
Put the water in.
Container?
yeah, so close.
Or the one I just came up on, the blue lights, the hot striker,
Okay.
a pot to boil water.
Yeah, we have room.
This knife or machete.
Cooking utensils.
Up there in the
Yeah, for fishing, you play a part.
Anybody really good with YouTube?
Blank check.
Okay, so now we have to have our.
And then you guys all want to put your
We have a.
I think they have
Yeah, but nobody else is this.
Nobody else is gonna be on there, so when you watch the clothes, you don't have to.
Jenny,
What?
is it just 10 together or 10 from that list?
So go through it.
Okay,
I
one
did mine was
more.
the 5.
Do you guys want to change your clothes?
Is the javelin?
First aid kit.
There's a hunting knife.
First aid kit might be good.
Does it hurt himself?
I have, so this is what I got, 6 gallons of drinking water. Hunting knife, the book on edible, and rope.
You gotta entertain yourself.
I think it was just a useful
boil water.
Well, if it's a survival book.
Go, I
And
like that.
now, so what I suggest, go through, pick 5 that you think are best, and then compare and see which. Right now,
10 pounds of hamburgers for
Oh, I love the device that
yeah.
to drink.
So,
Like that.
oh, I want to add the vegetables.
Oh, rain. But then again, maybe the kids will know it.
Well, nowadays people have blankets, so you can use that either for your shelter or to cover up with. You can gather, coconut, but you can open the can with a knife.
Amazing.
So
Convert
also.
salt water to drinking water. That's all we need. We don't need a can.
Yeah, but you're
This is the last one.
Who are you gonna play with? Just
Cans.
throw it
We
in.
don't need one.
No, but you eat the vegetables first.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, but
And she was so
But
cute.
you can only have 10 of those things.
I mean, what's the kids too many? We're surviving right. Honestly, let's get some mustard one.
She did take it off when she
Why
did
they
it.
stop ketchup and
I was
rainbow
impressed.
water?
She
Yeah, the
did
raincoat, I feel like
all
it's a
these
good
people
one.
being around all those people.
But they have a container because you can't find water. It sticks to the last very long.
That's what I was thinking.
Plant them?
You got 3 days.
Especially if you convert salt water into.
Yeah. My little warrior, because I was having surgery the next week too, so we made a big deal.
We need one more. So we have 6 ounces of drinking water, matches, hunting knife, book on the
Hey, what about the soccer team, man?
rope,
No, you can only cast a knife.
2 cans of vegetables,
Yeah,
blanket,
don't know.
raincoat, potatoes.
For others, I mean,
Like, if you get a
for others has been that way.
or we can just do something.
I'd see it.
Who's doing
Then you can
basketball
wash
for the
them.
girls?
Well, you're naked though. Here is your
Who's
brother
doing
himself.
basketball for the girls? Is it Webster?
And for others?
I didn't understand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw Ryan.
I saw that.
So it is Webster for sure?
I mean, that's it. We want that. Yeah, we did.
First, we didn't have to handle the situation.
Okay, yeah. That's good,
Especially when you know historically there's an issue.
Yeah, or on a rock.
Did you notice that all of our coffee machines?
Yeah, it's really foil things.
I was the office. I like that. I guess I'm gonna use your guys' because ours are
10
out.
cans of
And then
vegetables,
everyone's
like, we got to throw those out for
Yeah, it sounded that way.
They were hanging out.
I don't think we should give her any water. That's like, you can live weeks on
Wait, you're
water.
just
Figured for
boiling the
now.
water
Water
with
is
the
not
salt.
even
On an island. You have the salt water.
If you boil salt water on salty, it's not gonna, it's just gonna be sanitary, so it's salty.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just gonna die.
So are we getting rid of the canned vegetables?
What else? What was that?
I wonder if you have the raincoat, kind of doubles as a
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, right. Wait, what were we gonna put up in there?
So
That's it. I'm in my bed.
You're not even comfortable, you're kind of stressed out.
They said it should be out. She went and does it right away. So that means that it's gonna be hot.
But you just put a bunch of sticks and then you put the leaves and you get to
Alright, we got our time.
Alright. I've been.
I have a copy, but I have to make copies for every member there, and usually
And it motivates them to be
No.
two different, so I
Oh, matches.
Oh,
Yeah, that's on our list.
oh, we did.
We just get another I think that's what our next spot is.
I think
Use it as bait, all the animals come in, they kill the animals.
Compensation of animal stains, and then they're gone all day. sometimes.
I don't think I want to lure
If you're stranded on an island, you're becoming a
Granted, let them
vegetarian.
get out of there.
for sure. Or no, fish.
Oh,
Unless
fish.
you can fish.
Fish is crap. Yeah, but the net.
I didn't know that, or I wasn't.
We don't have a net.
And they fucking.
I never know. You get that for where am I gonna
No, you're gonna use the
Finally, I asked
the
Miss
knife
Mattis.
to sharpen the stick and use it as a spoon.
Do they really?
You can use a fish trap.
Yeah, you can.
From Lucky Plaza from November.
Or that's late, but we can do this
Oh, we're gonna cut holes in the raincoat for the water to go out.
He wants to start from Arizona.
Alright, we got our 10.
Not that she's fun to hang out with, but we're scared of her.
My phone's almost dead. Cause like,
Right, you're supposed to, I mean, like at Madera, he called me, he's doing ag class. Because we're considered an ag school. And it's
okay.
you know, the program's awesome.
Actually, we need to
Now that we're in it, we're not focused on ourselves at all. Well, and then Madison, they're married. Madison joined, when I would know her.
Yeah, one.
Or they were all and we were at the fair one time. I'm watching these parents turn down
And for me, like, if you're not already there.
and these 5 boys stand in Madison.
Same, I'm proud of myself. I'm ready for the next one. I know, my husband is 6'2", so I'm there.
Yeah, no, she's like 5'10", and that's why she
And you can see the boys going. And Madison's like, boys, go. And a while later she walked up to Brandon.
No.
He's mad at me. And everybody sees that.
She's not too, like, that was, like, apparent the first time.
I don't know. She has her own.
She's her own dynasty.
Yeah, type, I mean.
Well, there's that too.
She is a princess.
Yeah.
That's her dynamic.
And you don't question her
switching on my
March 7th.
Do you remember how
I'm getting ready.
Yeah, she's still there.
Oh, I have a coworker like 22nd, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I get married to
Yep,
maybe
she still does. She still drives a huge, like 250, 350.
Congratulations, thank you.
3 extra people are filling, you know?
We have No, I think it's
Any more? More?
Yeah.
It used to be
I'm
Central.
usually, already from Hanford,
Oh, okay.
so
I don't know how she does it.
anymore.
I think we're all scared.
We're the only ones out here, the only moved out here.
She wins
for my
everything.
job, so.
You know,
Alright.
I just had to cover ELA for my counterpart today. And they're reading The Giver.
Oh. Love that book!
And they did, you know, they read chapter 13 today, and then one of their critical thinking assignments was something similar to this. They had to pretend that our society today was kind of set up like that. Nobody showed up for their jobs. Which 5 jobs would be the most important
Oh!
to cover?
I love The Giver. What grade?
8, 7.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because they were teaching it in 5th grade in Central, and it made me mad because they're not capable of the concepts and the depth in that book at all.
Yes.
And, you know, because it is a pretty complex utopian type deal. And until they have an understanding of what, remotely, what society really is, how do you expect them to understand utopian? But I was also the English department chair and had issues with the younger people, the younger level stealing our book. Okay. So this,
Same kind of.
what were some of the top, like each table has to give me their top 10.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah. Can it, are you gonna read it?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Alright, number 1, 6 gallons of drinking water. 2 matches. 3 hunting knife. 4 the book on edible tropical plants. 5 rope. 6 the 10 cans of vegetables. 7 can't read my own writing. Raincoat. 8 potatoes, 9 flashlight, and 10 the device that turns salt water into drinking water.
Okay. Anybody want to give, like, what was the greatest discussion over?
The
the blanket. We're gonna keep the blanket or the vegetables.
And why did you decide vegetables?
Well, because you can eat the vegetables and then you can use the tin cans to drink out of, to cook in, to whatever.
So if we have potatoes, we can grow
We're gonna
potatoes.
grow potatoes
And then you have
too.
to boil potatoes, so you need something to boil it in, you can boil it in the tin.
Woo!
And the blanket we had talked about using for shelter or to cover up with or to help gather things with, and we thought the tin cans were better than the blanket.
Okay. This table. You guys ready?
The rope, the book on how to tropic plant, a hunting knife, that device that converts the salt water into drinking water. Are matches on there? Yes, okay. Dried fruit, a blanket. I don't think a pot was on there, but it was. Walkie-talkie.
Pot or a pot?
A saucepan.
Okay.
I asked him the same thing. I just wanted a walkie-talkie and then the tin cans of vegetable. 10 cans of vegetables.
So what was your biggest discussion over?
I guess my first aid kit's not on there, but it should be.
I know you two at least didn't agree on everything.
No. I think it was on the food, because at first he started with like the 10 pounds of
She wanted the
hamburger.
bananas.
I wanted the bananas.
And I'm like, we're in a hot tropical island.
She's like, they're gonna go bad, you can make banana bread. And so she's like, I'm gonna go with the dried fruit. And I was like, okay, so.
And then they said something about the water. I'm like, well, how are we gonna carry water?
Oh yeah, yeah, because we were thinking of 6 gallons of water. I'm like, I didn't carry 6 gallons of water.
So at one point we're gonna go have SOS. Get out of there.
SOS? The food or the signal?
The signal.
Oh. You two are like a comedic act. I swear.
No idea.
Every time I look over at you, you're like arguing or something. Alright, back table.
Our list wasn't exactly from that.
Okay.
But we had a knife, flint, the purifier, a tent, a flashlight, a rope, canteen, a pot, a blanket, and a first aid kit.
Okay. What was the biggest discussion?
We didn't really have one.
I wanted Wilson, but you know, we got it.
Everybody's got to have Wilson. So my question is, what about the water?
We said the purifier.
The purifier.
Oh.
Yeah, well, if you can't find additional water, then you're gonna die in 3 days anyway.
Right.
So you got
So,
3 days
but
to
that
find
gives
the
you a
water
reason to
supply.
have the pot, because if you're going to die anyway, you can just smoke pot. Right?
Well, I think you could bring along water, but that would only last you, and you still gotta find water.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so if you couldn't find water, it just extends your life only by 7 days. So
Okay.
that's not
Okay, wait, you guys.
optimistic, but
My quiet group.
Okay. So the device that converts salt water into drinking water, a blanket, a knife, water, rope, the book, edible tropical plants, assuming it's a tropical island, some vegetables, potatoes, matches, and a compass.
Okay, what was the biggest discussion?
We don't fight.
No? Your lovers, not fighters? Okay. Alright,
We
so.
build bridges.
I
You
want,
built bridges. Nice.
I want the lead pipe, the candlestick, this with Colonel Mustard.
Alright.
In the library.
Perfect. There's a teacher, you guys probably know who she is, but her last name is one of those. And every time I go to see her, I just giggle, because her name's Miss Peacock. And I'm like, Miss Peacock in the library with the candlestick. Okay, so, get out of this. Real quick, you guys want to tell me what, if we use the, based on the knowledge, wheel of knowledge thing? Oh. Real quick. I'm not going to do it in present mode because it takes long. What do we use? What did that last activity basically hit on?
Oh my God.
Level 4.
Yeah, well, because I can't read it.
Let's recall the list. Name.
So in one,
Memorize.
identify, list. So I would say that this one isn't as heavy on level 1, but probably more so 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, you have to do cause and effect.
Yep. Compare, good.
Predict.
Predict, good. In 4, apply concepts. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Well, you had to connect, like, we had to decide with our cans, we connected to the water, to the cooking, to
You
the-
expanded too, that's
Yeah.
creative, right? You're thinking beyond just, oh, this is a can of vegetables. I know on level 3, I heard a lot of you revising your lists. A lot of you developed a logical argument as to why an item should be chosen, right?
Yeah.
You had to use concepts to solve non-routine problems, such as the cans, bringing water and cooking. Hypothesize, draw conclusions. This is strongly a level 3. Could you see where, now granted, the 30 items, like I said, is a bit overwhelming. I mean, I think it's overwhelming for us and we're adults. But if you narrowed it down to 10 and said, pick your top 2, share with your group, as a group come up with 5, or you could, because 5 is simple enough too, so if you have kids that maybe aren't prolific writers, you can have them verbally share it. And that was one of the things I wanted to make sure everybody understood is what we say with the pre-write and a post-write, you can always do with talking, or pair share, or anything like that to get them thinking, engaging, connecting. Because if you ask me, like if I was doing this activity and you said, if you asked me to connect it, I mean the only thing I could connect it with is some time where I was like stuck. Like I ran out of gas one day at 115 and I didn't have any water and I didn't have gas and I had to figure out what to do. So I mean, all those things are connections, and if I was doing this activity, all of a sudden I would connect and go, oh, I did that one time. I remember that was terrible. And that's what they need to do. That's why you do the pre-write and the post-write. You engage their brain. These are the resources. I know this will be loaded. This is the one where I got the one you just did. I've used, there's all kinds on there. They're not all group things. There's different visuals, there's different writing, there's all kinds of stuff. It's pretty amazing. And then this one was the little video. They have a bunch of videos that are critical thinking. I don't know. Oh, he did. Are there any questions about anything yet? Are we good? I tried to make this a little more fun. If you guys would do this and leave the supplies, and I'll get them when you depart.